Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. And today, as my special guest, I have Brently, the Punk Apostate. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Yeah, the first thing I need to clear up
Mhm.
is your name,
Oh yeah.
because I put you on the thumbnail as Brent based on your Facebook name, which says you are Brent Lee. And then someone else corrected me and said, no, it's not Brent Lee, it's Brently. So I changed it in the description, but left the thumbnail because it's actually difficult to change thumbnails.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah, that's
is it
okay.
Brent Lee or is it Brently?
It's Brently. The Brent Lee thing was kind of a joke because they in Facebook they were like, you have to have a last name. Like I couldn't just 'cause
Ah,
I was trying to go for the Madonna, Moses thing. Well, I would no last name. Don't need that.
mhm.
I'll just be Brently. And yeah, it was like, no, you have to have a last name. So I was like, shit. All right, Brent Lee. Get it? It's but yeah, it was just a kind of a joke. But
Okay. Now I totally understand. That is good to know. Okay. So how are you doing today?
doing great. Yeah.
Great, great.
Feeling great. How about you? You doing all right?
I am. Any special plans for New Year's?
Oh man, New Year's. That's right. That's the next one to be coming up. No, I don't. Not that I'm aware of, really. I
Okay.
kind of, I'm a lot more reserved these days. Like, I had a lot of time where I was like partying a lot,
Mhm,
and so I'm a lot more like reserved now. I don't do that as much,
mhm.
you know. So yeah, it's probably just be a chill night with my. I bet you we'll end up doing like a Harry Potter countdown or
Mm,
something like that.
okay.
Some movie series, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
The big thing I'm doing this year is I'm gonna make a beef Wellington, on New Year's Day, on Monday, and I have not done that in a very long time because my son, who is 22, is a vegetarian, and he's been a vegetarian since he was 2. And my daughter was a vegetarian. She became a vegetarian when she was around 12 or 13. So I have not made, really meat heavy dishes for a very long time. But it used to be my mom's tradition that she made beef Wellington every year on New Year's Day because that was my dad's birthday, and that was one of his favorites. And so, yeah, I
Oh,
haven't made one in decades, and I'm going to make a beef Wellington.
oh, that sounds so good. Beef Wellington. What is that? Is it like a roast of some kind, or is it Wellington?
Okay, it is a beef tenderloin roast. So, yeah, it's a
Oh, cool.
very expensive piece of meat.
Oh,
Um, to start, I don't need a lot. I only need about 2 pounds, but it costs like $30 a pound. Um,
whoa.
and then
That's
you take a pastry, and you're supposed to make a duxelle, a mushroom sauce, or one recipe I had said to use a liver pate, and you spread that on the pastry, and then you also have a layer of an herb paste, and then you put your roast on that, and then you cover it with the pastry, and then you bake it. Now, my
oh,
mom always made it with a homemade pie crust, and that's the way I'm used to making it. But Bobby Flay has a recipe using puff pastry as the crust, and that
hmm.
sounds so much better to me. And I actually do not like mushrooms, and so I'm omitting the mushroom layer. He uses a layer of prosciutto around the meat, which is
Ooh.
what I'm doing.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, that sounds awesome. Wait, so it's almost kinda like a pot pie? Am I like a beef pot pie sorta? It's like
No, not really,
no?
because it's not creamy. There's no gravy,
Oh,
and there's no vegetables in it.
I
There's some
see, okay.
herbs in it, but no vegetables.
Interesting. Wow,
Mhm.
okay, yeah, I've never had that before. That sounds really good, though.
Mhm, it
That's
is.
awesome.
Okay. I was trying to waste time just a bit to give time for people to get here, because at the very beginning of the stream, there's not always that many, and so I did want to give people a little bit of time to get here. And please, people in the chat, Maya, Skit Scratcher, Ember, feel free to ask questions or comments, and we'll include those in the stream.
Yeah, buddy.
The first thing I want to start with is your channel, of course. Tell us a little bit about what you do and why you do it.
See, so I have a channel right now called the Punk Apostate, and I pretty much, I mean, so far I've been trying to do more content, but the idea was to do kind of like to react to fundy tube type stuff, like fundamentalist YouTube, and try to make it feel like a stand-up kind of comedy thing. That was sort of the idea. Doesn't always work out that way, but sometimes it works out that way until I get angry, and then it kind of
Mm.
that's just dives it off a cliff. But that was the idea of the show. But I'm like kind of trying to branch out more now and do. I have done like conversations with people I disagree with, things
Mhm.
like that. Um, and now I'm trying to do like pre-recorded videos.
Mhm.
Swear, but it's like I have like live brain. Like I can't. It's so hard for me to get out of the just clicking live and doing stuff.
Mhm.
It's like I'm like started over. Nope, that wasn't good. Nope, started again. And then I'm like, it's been 6 hours. I haven't done anything now. Like I just keep on resetting. So yeah, I really like the live stuff a little better. But hanging out with the audience and stuff, it's a lot of fun. I love it.
Yeah. The live stuff is definitely easier. There's not as much to prepare for with the live stuff.
Right. Yeah, and I'm terrible at preparing. That's what it
Ah,
really is.
mhm.
I'm great once I get into it, but it's like trying to decide what to do before I do it is just, I'll sit there forever.
The reason I like the scripted better than the live actually is because I get to the end of a live stream or particularly a conversation with someone that I disagree with, and about an hour after the conversation, I'm going, "Why didn't I think of this? Why didn't I say that?" Or
Right.
or I may have something in my mind and I'm holding back because I'm afraid to say it for one reason or another, and then when the conversation is over, "Why did I hold that back?" You know?
Right. Yeah. Oh, I hate that. That's like one of my biggest like pet
Yeah.
peeves, going back and looking at myself, like missing stuff and be like, why didn't I make that was oh my gosh. Like, why didn't I say that? Yeah, that is I get that for sure. I feel like I'd still end up doing that even if it was pre-recorded somehow.
Yeah,
I don't know how I would.
that's true.
Yeah.
Although with the pre-recorded, I write my script, and then I always walk away from the script, and I spend at least an hour away to get my mind off of it, and then I come back and reread the script and tweak it a bit.
Oh, see, that's probably the one thing I need to be doing then, right there. So I take a break. Yeah, that's such a good idea. Just clear your head a little bit. Yeah,
Mhm, mhm.
I like
I
that.
also do that after I do the first edit. Then I record and then I edit, and when I finish editing so that I've assembled all of the pieces, um, then I take a break from it, and then I try to watch it with a fresh mind, seeing it, how is the audience going to see this having come from it with a fresh mind? And
Uh,
then I start tweaking.
oh, that's a good idea too. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it's the patience, I think, is something I gotta I'm gonna have to get better at being patient, you know?
Okay, tell us your backstory. How did you come to be an atheist? Have you always been an atheist?
Oh, no, no, I was, I was raised fundamentalist, was homeschooled, didn't have access to really any, anything other than, um, a very specific in group, you know? My parents, didn't want me to know about stuff really is what it ends up being.
Mm.
So they shelter you, they keep you away from everything. And, yeah, and that it
What
worked
church
for,
were you raised in?
Calvary Chapel. I don't know if you're, familiar with
Oh,
the Calvary movement?
okay, is that a Calvinist church?
No, no, but there
Oh,
I technically was a Calvinist, but it wasn't part of the church necessarily. It was just that there was a lot of us there that were Calvinist,
mhm.
but it wasn't explicitly part of the, tradition because it's that non-denominational
Okay.
thing, right? Which is still a denomination. So weird. It's so funny when non-denominational is a denomination, but yeah, and you could be either a Calvinist or Arminianist and still be part of the community and everything. Although it
Mhm,
did cause quite a few disagreements at Bible studies quite often, honestly, about the Romans 9 and all that. But yeah, it's they made the movie about it just recently called The Jesus Revolution. Um,
oh, really?
you know what I'm talking
That's
about?
Yeah, I do, and I didn't realize that was about Calvary Chapel. I've definitely heard of Calvary Chapel, but, I was trying to place it. So now I remember exactly what it is.
Right, yeah, it's like the hippie Jesus movement, that whole thing. And yeah, and so I mean, it actually worked out it was just interesting how it worked out because like we were, as growing up and everything, the scene here, it's like I'm in Florida, and there was like a pretty thriving punk scene when I was growing up. But it was interesting because it was right when the Christian punk scene kind of became a thing, right?
Mm,
And
mhm.
so that was like a big deal to me and my friends when we were growing up. And the church loved it because it was like, oh, we're punks for Jesus, and it was it's just like so cheeseball, but it was fun. And I'm actually thankful because my parents at least let me listen to punk enough to be able to sneak some of the secular stuff. And then that was where I feel like I learned a lot of stuff about politics and just the philosophy and things like that, just from asking questions about what the song mean. What is the song about? Like I'm trying to figure out. I learned all
Mm,
sorts of stuff because they're always talking about politics and stuff, and I was always fascinated by it. But nobody would ever give me a straight answer from my
mhm,
family. They'd all be like, "Oh no, we're not supposed to be talking about that stuff." You know,
mm.
well, I would always get like the watered down, far right version, of whatever the question was.
Can't listen to any of that liberal music.
No, no, yeah. I had to sneak it. I remember it was, like, right when the internet was basically new, and so, a lot of my mom would be like, "Okay, you gotta bring me the lyrics," you know? So I'd be like, "Okay, shoot, how am I gonna do?" And so I would buy the CD, and then I they had, like, the cover part, and I would just cut the lyrics all off of it and be like, "Ah, shoot, doesn't have any here, I'll print you out some lyrics online," and then I would just take out all the F words, from the song. It works, It's like
Mm.
it's like, "See, they sure say frickin' a lot. It's weird." They yeah, but, yeah.
Mm,
But, yeah, beyond that, I was, I was really into it, though. I was very, dedicated Christian, for a long time, fundamentalist,
mhm,
young
mhm.
earth creationist, all
Oh,
that
really?
type of
You were
stuff.
a young earther?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's what I even have, here, I'll show you. I actually have the science book still. I keep it, around here from by Dwayne T. Gish of the Gish Gallop.
Oh,
So it's kind of
goodness.
fun.
Oh,
Yeah,
goodness.
creation. That was my science. Science that's basically like, here's why science is stupid and wrong. But it's like that's science. That's impressive. But
And
yeah.
you were homeschooled, so you didn't learn anything else?
Nope, that was it. Very much so it seemed like they were trying to shut down any kind of curiosity for me. And
So,
so
did you get a high school diploma through a homeschool program?
I was no, I got a GED. Um
Oh, okay.
I could have, but I would have had to go in like an extra year because I wouldn't have graduated until I was like 19 years old because
Mhm.
they put me in like a year late. It's a summer birthday. And yeah, so I was like, "Dude, I'm just gonna take my GED and get done with this. This is silly." you know.
Did you have any problems with the GED because of your limited education, your sheltered education?
Yeah, yeah, I had to go to a what do you call it? It was a tech school.
Mhm.
They had like a technical institute out here, and it took me, I don't know, I almost want to say like 6 months to a year, maybe. I had to keep taking classes for each section because I couldn't pass I could get like one section at a time, but I had to basically take classes for almost every section.
Oh, really?
Individual. Yeah, because it was just I just didn't they, none of the information was the same stuff I had learned. So I'm like, it was like relearning everything just to take a test.
Yeah,
And
I
it
would
was
have thought
frustrating.
that the math would be the same and reading would be the same.
Those yeah, I actually passed those 2. That
Okay,
was it. The
okay.
rest, social skills. I mean, and the math was difficult too. I was just really bad at math.
Mhm,
But yeah, it was, yeah, those 2 were the ones that I actually was able to do. But yeah, all the rest was not yeah, I had to take a bunch of courses.
mhm. Mr. Shadow Kitty says everything went sideways when he discovered marijuana.
Oh, that'll do it. That'll do it. I mean, it could go to a good place that's sideways, um, you know?
Okay, so you get your GED,
Mhm.
and then what did you do after high school? Or, after you got the GED? What was
Drugs. Oh.
drugs? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, lots of drugs. Um, but yeah, just because like I don't know. Part of like being that sheltered and everything, I think that like and being kept away from a lot of social situations, and then also kind of being programmed that you need stuff. You can't make it on your own. You're not gonna, life's too hard to make it without a coping mechanism, because of course they want you to rely on Jesus as a coping mechanism. But when that
Mhm.
doesn't pan out, you tend to go to other things, you know. And I was sober my whole childhood. Like it was, it wasn't until after I graduated, and I was like, I think 19 or 20 when I first had my first drink, you know. But from there, it escalated quite quickly, because I had left um, the 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 church community that I was part of. There was like I was in a Christian band, a punk band, and everything, and we like would play around to different churches, and the our drummer was like leaving to go to be in the military. And so he had asked his dad, he was like, "Can I have a beer? I want to have a beer before I go off to the military." His dad was like, "Yeah." Well, that got around. And so it like indicted all of us, I guess, like a
Mm.
guilt by association.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, that, so then we all kind of just were treated at, they already thought that because we were punks anyway, and they would act like they liked us and everything and thought that we were okay, but they really didn't, you know. And so I think they already thought that we were drinking and stuff anyway, and this was sort of just like a way to be like, I knew it, kind of deal. So that ended up sort of pushing me out to a different community, and the drug community is quite accepting. They really are.
Mhm.
They don't have a lot of qualms about newcomers. They're like, "Will you pay? Are you going to pay for all of us to get the stuff?" You're like, "Yep, all right, cool, man. This guy's awesome. This guy's awesome." That's all it takes.
So did you have your own place at this point?
No, no.
You were still living with your parents?
Yeah,
Okay.
until shoot, I don't even know when I ended up finally moving out of there. Um, yeah, I was working at Chuck E. Cheese, which,
Mhm.
there's and I remember just looking at my paychecks and then like listening to my parents be like, "You just got to save up and get this and that." And I'm like, "Okay, so this is impossible. This is not going to ever happen."
Mhm.
Because there's just the numbers just don't add up, So yeah, I was stuck there for a while. I ended up moving out with a girlfriend, and I was not allowed to move back in. So I was from then on, I was like homeless for a while. It's like about almost a little over a year, I think, of on the streets, and then in what do you call them, shelters and stuff, in halfway
Mhm.
house, and yeah, fun,
Were you
fun
still
stuff.
working at that time?
Yeah, I was working the whole time. I never, it was quite weird, but yeah, I never lost my job. I was just cleaning up stuff
Mhm.
anyway. So it wasn't like, it wasn't like I had a really difficult job to keep.
Mhm.
And the people at Chuck E. Cheese, but they're fine. They don't care. They're like, whatever, just keep the kids alive in the room and you'll be good. Like we don't, you know.
Now, at what point did you stop believing?
That wasn't until way later. So
Okay.
had been on the streets and everything, gone from there to, still believing in Christianity and everything, and constantly blaming myself, of course, in that whole time, because that's what you do when you're struggling like that, and you're only talking to religious people who are like, "This is all your fault," you know that? And
Mhm.
yeah, so yeah, I kept believing in everything. It wasn't until I had gotten off the streets, or I mean, almost gotten off the streets, and I became an atheist basically when Trump started running. Once he started running, that's the only reason I know the date, because I just remember that was just such a uh, it was just such a stark divide in my mind of like, wait a second, you guys are just bending over backwards to like defend this person that you would have never defended. This is somebody that you never ever would have had a good thing to say about ever.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
and I think that dishonesty just really made me start thinking and seeing the people I respected, you know, talking about Trump and everything like that. And I just was like, "Oh, man, I think I made a mistake. I think I'm wrong about this whole conservative thing." And then when I was like, "Why am I a conservative then?" I was like, "Oh, because I'm a Christian." And then that just ended up the dominoes just kept going, you know?
Mhm, mhm.
And finally I was like, "You know what? This is all bullshit. It's so obvious now." And it's like, it all just came crumbling down. And it was right when it was 2016. That was when it happened. And basically after that happened, I was able to stop doing the drugs, stop doing all the stuff. And my life
That's
completely turned around.
amazing.
Right.
Your story is exactly the opposite of most believers. You know, believers will tell you, "Oh, I was into drugs and into alcohol, and I had this problem, I had that problem." And once I started believing that, all of a sudden all my problems went away, or God helped me deal with all of my problems. And you're exactly the opposite. You had all those problems as a believer, they cleared up when you quit believing.
Yeah. Yeah, it was almost like if I just, allowed myself to actually go check on the science and listen to the actual medical professionals rather than acting like I know better than all of them, and be like, "Well, like, I just need to go to church. Just pipe down, okay? I just gotta go to church, get Jesus, and now, and then I'll be top notch again." But when you actually go, "Okay, hold on. None of that works. Let me just listen to this, you know, uh, mental health professional and actually do what they say." Yeah.
Mhm. Um, I'm not sure how to pronounce this. A lady, a lady. Um,
I like the aching lady. That's good.
but she says, "I was already an atheist, but it wasn't until Trump that I was vocal about it." Um, Trump had an effect on my faith, but not it didn't cause me to deconstruct. I looked at all of the Trump influence in the church I was going to, and I saw it as, okay, Trump made it so you can say the quiet part out loud. You've always been racist. Now you're vocal about it. You've
Right.
always been a bigot. Now you're just vocal about it. And I did grow more and more away from the people in the church, but what I tended to do was say, okay, these people are just, that's their politics, that's not their religion, and I just kind of separated the two. And I didn't really want anything to do with the Trumpers, but I still separated it from the religious belief, and so I still hung on to the religious belief quite a bit longer.
Hmm. Oh, okay. So you didn't deconvert until so what?
2019.
2019. Oh, wow.
Mhm,
Okay. Wow,
mhm.
that's fascinating. Oh, it's awesome.
That was the year that my son graduated from high school, and, my deconversion was really quite sudden. It was just a matter of R and Ra showing me that the flood didn't happen, and because I had had enough tragedy in my life that when I would reflect on my faith, I was very deliberate in determining what is the foundation of my faith? What is it all based on? And the answer for me was the Bible, the inerrancy of the Bible. And as long as the Bible was inerrant, no matter what happened to me, I would trust in God. And so once R and Ra showed me the Bible is not inerrant, it just the whole thing just shattered
Yeah.
because everything was built on that foundation, and without the foundation, it all just collapsed.
Ye Yeah, I mean, I was right in there. That's funny that you said that because that was, like, one of the first things that it was kind of during it's always a bunch of stuff going on at the same time, but, I remember that being like, "Look, if there's even one thing in here that doesn't make sense," and you know what it was? It's the dumbest thing. It was the sun wasn't made till the 4th day. That I don't know
Mm,
why that just made me so mad because I was like, "How did I what do you mean it wasn't till the 4th day? You need days, and the unit has to be days, and that requires a sun.
sun.
Why? Oh my god. Like, how did I miss this?" You know?
There was evening. What is evening? Evening is the period of time between when the sun goes down and when you go to bed. That is evening. If there is no sun, there is no evening.
No,
Morning, when the sun comes up. If there is no sun, there is no morning.
It says it 3 times before the sun existed.
Right.
That
Right.
is so funny to me, and that really bothered me. That one and the, was this there's this dude, Eli Bosnick, that does, the Scathing Atheist podcast and stuff, and he was asking questions to people outside, and I remember one of them was like, "What's the smallest seed?"
Mhm.
And I was like, "Oh, it's the mustard seed," and he's like, "Nope, not even close." I'm like, "Yeah, the fuck it is, man. I know this one." And I, like, went and looked it up, and, I was like, "Nope, yeah, that's not the smallest seed. I don't know." And Jesus would know that. I would think he would know. He invented the things. I feel like he should know what's the smallest one, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
oh yeah, that one messed me up.
Ember says, if you don't believe in Genesis, why would you believe any of the rest of it? Ken Ham's most honest statement ever. And he even had a statement to this effect in the Ark music or the Ark encounter.
Oh yeah,
And Aaron Ra did a walkthrough of the Ark encounter, and he came to it. It said, if I can get you to disbelieve Genesis, I can get you to disbelieve the whole Bible, and as a serpent, crawling around that sign. And Aaron Ra says, "Well, I wouldn't put the bar that low." And I looked at that video. I said, "But I did. That's exactly where my bar was. If just one point of Genesis is wrong, the whole Bible is not inerrant. It's not that the whole Bible is wrong, but the whole Bible is not inerrant. And if your
right.
whole faith is based on inerrancy, you no longer have a basis for believing any of it."
Right. Yeah, that is, such a good point, and it's like and honestly, I would rather them be honest like that and be like, "Look, I just believe it all, like, because of this or whatever, believe that it's all inerrant." And them saying that actually is, I'd say, a good thing, being like, "Look, if this is wrong, then the whole thing's wrong," kinda thing. Because
Mhm.
most of the time, you don't get that. Most of the time, you get, "Oh, well, if this is wrong, well, then I'll just make something up," and then if
Mm.
that's wrong, I'll make something else up. And then I'll just
Mhm.
keep and that's what ends up being, and I refuse to do that anymore. I was like, I felt like I was starting to do it quite a bit when I was, kind of deconstructing and everything. And then I was just like, I'm lying to myself on purpose and I know it. And yet I'm still sitting here trying to rationalize around this stuff. And yeah, I just finally was like, that's it, dude. I'm not gonna lie to myself about this anymore. you know.
I had a believer try to do that with me on Twitter about a week or two ago. And he was arguing with me about Jesus' body. And I asked him, I frequently will ask believers, what happened to Jesus' body? And he said, well, it just decomposed. I said, oh, it did. Well, then it must have decomposed super fast. How did God make the body decompose super fast? Well,
Right.
it didn't decompose super fast. So, well, Peter and John went into the tomb and there was no body there. So, if Jesus died and turned to dust, why was there no body in the tomb? And
Right.
he had no answer for that one. He tried to deflect and go to a different direction. And as
Oh, I
well,
meant
this
that
is the
he flew into the clouds. Shit, I forgot that part.
yeah,
I was like, "Wait, how did you miss the flying away into the clouds?" Like, that's funny, yeah.
yeah. Well, yeah, and then he said, "Well, he used the body to make his new body." And as well,
What?
then it didn't turn to dust, like you said at the beginning of the conversation. Well, yeah, it did that.
Oh my god,
I don't
it's
think you
just
know what you believe.
they don't know, they don't know. It's like, I didn't know either. I mean, I think I had an idea, but I probably would be the person saying some stuff like that, honestly, before,
Mhm.
not consistent with it at all. It's just, ugh.
Left-handed Jedi says, "My start was the story of Cain and Abel and the people of Nod." Now, I never had a problem with the people of Nod because
Oh,
since Adam and Eve lived for 900 years, obviously they were producing lots of children. And, their kids were starting to have kids when they were just 30 years old. And so, if Cain and Abel don't come until 500 years later, yeah, I could see that there's a whole city of people of Nod. They're all going to be brothers and sisters.
right, okay, that's interesting you said, because that was another one that, like, messed me up, where they're like, "Oh, we gotta put this mark on Cain," and they're like, "Why?" "Well, so the other people don't kill him." It's like, "Other people? What? There's, like, 4 y'all, that's it." Like, "What are you talking about?" But you're right, I guess if it was, like, 500 years, they could have. Because I remember thinking that back in the day, but I was like, but wouldn't all the kids know him then? Like they'd all be like, this is grandpa or great grandpa from like the town now, right? Like that's weird.
When the guy that led me to Christ when I was 16, he did the same thing, making stuff up when he didn't know. And one of the things that he made up was when Cain killed Abel, then in order to produce Seth, then Eve had to have sex with Cain in order to produce Seth. Now I don't know what was supposed to have happened to have happened to Adam at that point, but that's what I was told early in my believing days.
Wow. Okay. Is that? I feel like there's something like that in there, isn't there? There's like some weird where
No,
we're like, oh no, it's not. Okay. All right.
no,
I was like,
there's no mention of that kind of incest in the Bible.
Okay.
Obviously the brothers and sisters had to have sex with each other because there was nobody else.
Right. Okay.
But
Maybe that's
it
what I'm
does
thinking.
not mention Eve ever having sex with any of her kids. Lubiar says, I'm Australian and my father basically worships Trump, which I do not get at all. I honestly believe this is because Trump gave permission to openly be racist, sexist, and oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now it makes sense. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he showed everybody just how blatant, like, well, I mean, and it's funny though, because it's like while it's like he can blatantly be it, they still won't admit it. You know what I mean? So it's like they still hide in the ambiguity of it all, but they'll explicitly say the stuff, but then be like, but it's not racist though. It's like, so the label is the problem. Like you just don't like us labeling what you're saying the way that it's because it's like so entitled that they not only want to be able to say the racist thing, but then also not have it be labeled what it is, which is racist. It's so frustrating.
Mm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Nidhi says the atonement is predicated on a literal Adam and Eve. No original sin, no atonement. Yeah. Yeah.
Huh.
That is exactly one of the issues that I bring up frequently.
Yeah, because it's a lot of the times they'll sit there and say, "Oh, the Old Testament doesn't matter. Like, Jesus died for that. Whoever said that doesn't. None of that matters." But it's like you have to have the Old Testament for the original sin. If the original sin doesn't matter, then Jesus doesn't matter, and then nothing matters then. And this whole thing.
Yeah. The other thing you need original sin for is the Bible says in a number of places that all have sinned. And if children are born innocent, without original sin attached to them, then those verses are just wrong because
Oh,
then you're not a sinner until you actually commit a sin on your own.
huh.
And yeah.
Okay.
And one of
Interesting.
the things that I like to send believers around in circles on is whether or not babies go to heaven. And of course, they all say yes because they haven't reached the age of accountability, which of course is a doctrine that is not in the Bible at all.
Nope.
Um,
That's made up. It's one of those made ups.
yeah, yeah. But if a baby can be forgiven because they don't know, how is that any different than the adult atheist who was a cradle atheist, or the adult Hindu who doesn't know God? And of course they turn to Romans 1:20, you're without excuse. Well, how is the baby without excuse? I mean,
Yeah, it can't be both. I mean, yeah, that's just so interesting. Yeah. Wow, yeah, you're right. Because the baby not hearing it ever, they go to heaven. But once you get over a certain age, then it's just like God's such an obvious reality. Once you hit like 12 years old, like every 12-year-old's like, "Oh, there must be a God that exists."
right.
That's what is happening. Okay. Now everything makes sense. No, like that's what they think, It's like so funny.
I don't recall what this applied to because I'm a little behind on the comments. But Left-Handed Jedi says Scotty beamed him up to avoid a breach in the Prime Directive.
Okay. I don't know Star Trek enough. Shit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I gotta start watching it. Everybody keeps talking about it. And I'm like, I'll get to it. I will.
Maya Atkinson says, I wasn't taught inerrancy. I learned about it from atheists. That's
Really?
interesting. Mhm.
Wow, that's fascinating. Everybody I knew believed in inerrancy when I was growing up. That's so
I have
fascinating.
met a number of believers that don't believe in inerrancy. And I think if I had known that one could be a Christian without inerrancy, rather than completely checking Christianity, I probably would have changed my theology.
Right. Oh, that almost might be worse then, huh?
Yeah.
That's funny, yeah. 'Cause but I almost feel like that it just seems so weird if you can think that that it's not inerrant, then what how does that so then it can be anything. Like, so then you really can't know if you're saved or not. Like, you really can't know if your denomination is right. You can't know anything about it, you know? You're just guessing.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
for yeah, I don't know. I don't think I would've liked that very much.
So, Brently, tell us a little bit about what is your channel all about? You told us a little bit about, what you make, but what's your purpose? What drives you to make content and so forth?
Yeah, no, sure, yeah. Well, what's gr the way I was raised, fundy and everything, there was a lot of fears attached to
Mhm.
those belief systems of, like, demons and, the end times, the devil, all that type of stuff, and what I try to do on the show is to help, people that are kind of, apostates and things, right?
Mhm.
That are coming out of this, and they can like watch me at least watching the claims and then just sort of laughing at them, and making jokes and everything. And I
Mhm.
feel like that helps to kind of like uh quell some of those fears, those irrational fears that we have.
I would not only agree with you, but I accredit comedians with a lot of my social understanding, particularly Jordan Glepper,
Mm. Oh, I love
because
Jordan. Yeah,
I, yeah,
he's so
I
good.
started from being, a bigot and a homophobe, and I very gradually moved to where I am today, and I credit Christopher Yuang with starting me on the journey. And Christopher Yuang is a believer. And he's not only a believer, he's a professor of theology at Wheaton College in Illinois, but he's
Damn.
also gay.
Oh,
And
shit. You can't
one
do that. You're not allowed to do that. No,
well, yeah, they
just
let him teach there, but what he teaches is that if God made you gay, then you're gay. You can't help who you're sexually attracted to. But what you can help is what you do about it. And he says that gay people are called to be celibate.
oh,
Yeah,
damn.
so yeah, we would definitely disagree there, but at least that was enough to get me thinking and realizing that a gay person doesn't choose to be gay, that's just the way they are. And I think he does an excellent job of explaining that. Um, and so that of course prepared me for the next step, which was accepting gay people can be believers as well. And,
Right.
which took me to the next step, why can't a gay person be in a marriage relationship? Um,
Yeah.
and at that point, once I reached that point, it's funny, I should have gotten to a cognitive dissonance that, the Bible says this is wrong, and yet I don't see anything wrong with it. And yet I didn't. I was able to keep those completely separate, and I never
Oh,
put that
wow.
together.
Damn. Yeah, I'm pansexual, so, like, I always thought because I could choose, right? Uh, which I, do here and there, right? But because I could do that, that meant everybody else could. So when people would be like, "Oh, so you can just decide to be attracted to men?" I'm like, "Yep, you can't?" And they're like, "No, what?" Like, "What do you mean? Doesn't everybody just decide that sometimes when you're just, like, in the mood for the no? What? Okay. Well" so,
And
yeah.
I'm just the opposite. I am asexual.
Oh,
Although I didn't know that until I was 55 when my son announced that he was asexual, and I said, "What's that?" And he told me, and so I looked it up, and I looked up, what are the characteristics of a person who are asexual, and I had all but one of them. I was, "Oh."
oh, shit.
For the first time in my life, I finally understood why, as a teenager, I didn't feel the same way as all my friends did. My friends
Mm,
were going absolutely gaga over people, and I'm going, I don't get it.
That's so interesting. And I always feel bad for the asexual people too, because like, usually for like in Pride Month and everything, it's all about like, not repressing that stuff and not,
Mhm.
being shameful about it and all that. And so the poor asexual people are there, like, next to everybody, like, let's just be sexual out and open. And they're like, let's not be, I'm not doing, I'm the opposite. I'm not sexual. I always feel bad because, even though they are it is like you said, like there's a particular experience there that is different from what other people experience. It's funny because it's the opposite of what like
Mhm.
you know
I have experienced sexual attraction a few times. There's been 4 people, and they were all men that I felt sexually attracted to. But because it was such a strange feeling, I was afraid of it. I didn't understand it. I didn't know what it was I was feeling, and so I was terrified of it.
oh wow, like pushing it back like, oh no, no, don't feel that.
Exactly, exactly.
Wow, that's
Especially
so
since
interesting.
the 4 people I felt it for were all married men, and so, of course, I'm not gonna go after somebody else's husband.
Right, you gotta be careful of that. Yeah. That's too funny. How interesting. Yeah, I feel like I probably did sort of the same thing with the my queer feelings, it's like very, push that down. Don't choose that. So, yeah, I get the how that goes inside your head.
Ember has a comment, and I need to get the prior one to it in order to get the context. It says the Chicago statement is bloody wild, hard to read without laughing one's arse off. I don't know what the Chicago statement is. Do you?
Now, what Chicago
Okay.
statement? Hmm.
Okay. And then the
That's a
follow-up, Ember says
new
the
term.
fun part is Turek who pointed me right at it, but I
Hmm.
don't know what it is. So, oh well.
Turek is hilarious. That I mean, he's just absurd. I think he thinks he's like the new big apologist dude,
He does.
right? Yeah,
Mhm.
okay. But he doesn't. I couldn't really find that many debates, so I was like, that's kind of interesting that it was mostly just college students, at the places where he's at. That's it. That's all he, you know.
Exactly. Exactly. I've seen Paula Gia discuss this a number of times that, you know, Turek goes after college students because they're still finding themselves, they're still processing things, and they don't always have well-developed arguments or positions. And that's who he goes after. And I don't think Frank Turek could stand up if he actually had to debate an adult, a real adult.
I would love to see him go against Aaron Ra. I would pay to see that actually. That would be kind of fun. But yeah, that's a tactic they use quite a bit on the far propaganda right. It's like the change my mind people. They like, have a script with a bunch of like 17-year-olds that don't know anything about like what they're talking about.
Mhm. And drawing together our talk about Frank Turek and Ember's comment, pride is about being open about your sexuality, whatever the flavor. Ace folk often get shamed for thinking sex is nice, but maybe not today. And it's finally acceptable for you to be, yeah, LGBTQ. Um, the one thing that I absolutely love about being ace is when you get to people like Frank Turek who say atheists are all about wanting to sin. I look at all the atheists I know, and almost every single one of them, it's because they're in some kind of a sexual relationship that wouldn't be acceptable in Christianity. And so that's the reason atheists are atheists, because they just want to sin. And I say, okay, please tell me what is sinful about being asexual.
That's great.
Please tell me how I am displeasing God by not having sex.
Right. How dare you just not even do it?
Right.
That's
And
funny.
then they'll say, "Well, God wants you to have children." So, I've born 4 children.
Oh, okay. So then
So where did I go wrong?
now you're still good. Now you're in the green. It's like that's awesome. Yeah, because
Mhm.
they always bring that up, and it's so funny. I think it's just like, and it's really funny too with me too, because like I go the opposite. Like I was like, oh, that's interesting that I just want to sin, and I was somehow able to like sin way more when I was a Christian, and then when I became an atheist, now I hardly sin at all. you know?
Mm,
I
mhm,
used to do all sorts of drugs and everything like that now I do, like, nothing, you know?
mm.
I'm thinking about taking up knitting because I don't do anything, you know, as far as, like, that kinda stuff. Um,
I prefer crochet to knitting.
oh, okay, well, thank no, actually, I appreciate you. Is it okay, I'm gonna try both, but,
Okay.
I will do the crochet and see how that goes.
Ember says, I was responding to Nitty, who brought up the Chicago Statement of Inerrancy. It says stuff like, we believe the Bible is without error, comedy gold. Ah, okay.
Oh,
Okay. I didn't
huh,
realize that there was y- I've always been raised with the Westminster catechism. Um, I shouldn't say raised with because I actually was raised agnostic, but in the years that I was a believer, our pastor always pointed to the Westminster, particularly the Westminster Shorter Catechism,
hmm.
and so that's where we got most of ours from. Okay,
What is that? That's like a like standards or something for, like, what you
yeah,
believe?
it's got a lot of it's actually a series of questions and answers.
Hmm,
And the first question is, who is God? What is the purpose? And second, what is the purpose of God? What is the purpose of man?
hmm,
What is the purpose of Jesus? What is the purpose of the Holy Spirit? It's a series of questions, and
huh.
there's a longer and a shorter, and the shorter is the considered the more important, and the longer is pretty much exhaustive of everything you want to know
Oh god, I bet. Oh, jeez. Oh, it's interesting. Yeah, I never heard that one. We always had the doctrine, of the
of the
belief of
church.
yeah, it was like
Yeah.
yeah, it's non-denominational, but like I said, they had, like, their own little denomination doctrine type deal, so
A Kenna lady says he would choose an obvious ignorant person like me. I understand, but I'm not able to express myself, especially in English. So I'd be a perfect subject for them, unfortunately. Yeah, and that is true. That's he would single out someone like that. Although generally, what Turk does is he doesn't single people out. Rather, they come to him with questions, and he answers whatever questions that they ask. And so therefore he appears intelligent because it's like, oh, I can answer any question that's brought to me. But on the other hand, he limits the audience of it's only college students in the audience. So he limits what types of questions come to him in the first place. And then the other thing I always have to wonder is, does he publish everything that he's asked?
right.
I'm willing to bet that there's a time or two when he completely drops the ball on a question. I'm sure we never get to see that.
Exactly. Yeah, they weed those out, right?
Mhm.
Another thing that I notice he does too, and this is just like one of those I feel like they're dishonest kind of debate tactics is when you sort of talk over somebody while they're asking the
Mm,
question, like make a joke while they're talking, and so they have to like readjust and be like, "What?"
mhm.
And then he's, "Oh, nothing. I was just saying a thing," and so that throws them kind of like off their game, and then then he can kind of just mess with them from there. you
He
know.
also will change their question.
Oh,
When
you're
they
right.
ask a
Okay.
really difficult question, he'll say, "Okay, what I hear you saying is," and he'll change the question and answer his own question instead.
That's literally a straw man, like, to the nth degree. That's too funny. Let me rephrase your question for you. Like, that's so annoying when people do that. I swear, like, half the time, that's when you hear, like, atheists that are debating get so mad, like, "No, no, that's not what I said." Like, it's just yeah, because 'cause that'll piss anybody off, I think, but
Mhm, mhm. Believe it or not, we are already getting short on time.
geez Louise.
So I don't want to miss anything that you want to talk about. Anything else from your story about that you didn't get a chance to finish yet?
Let me think. Where was I? Let's see. I think I got most of the thing. Like I said, I got to when being unhoused and stuff like that. That I think that really messed me up because when you see stuff down there on the like in the nitty gritty of it, like a lot of this I was insulated from,
Mhm.
and so you don't if you don't see it, it's like it's not. It's like that it's out there. There's poor people and everything, but it's when it's in your face like that, and you see just how uh desperate a lot of people are, like that, and are having to live like that every day, and then of course all the drugs and everything like that, mostly because we're not idle creatures. We need to be doing something. If we don't have anything to do, we're going to find something to do. And a lot of times that's drugs because it's literally the only thing to do. you know,
Mm,
if you can't get dopamine hits from your regular life, then you're going to get them any way you can,
mhm,
even if
mhm.
it's chemically altering yourself. Which is actually a lot cheaper than getting natural getting natural dopamine hits from whatever. So yeah,
I
I
don't
think
know. I always found running the cheapest way to get dopamine hits.
oh, that's actually a good point, yeah. That's I'll have to tell them that, you guys should just go
Unfortunately, I
running.
can't run anymore.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, my knees, I don't know if I can oh.
My problem is my spine.
Oh, yeah, that'll do it, actually. Ooh, yeah,
Now,
back
you
stuff.
mentioned you were in a punk band. Were you vocalist or instrumentalist? What did you do in the band?
For that one, I was a guitarist and lead singer, and I wrote all
Okay.
the songs and stuff, yeah.
Do you know Art Against Ignorance?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Art against
You need to check out Art Against Ignorance channel. He makes atheist music.
No shit, really?
That
Oh,
yeah,
that's
that
awesome.
is what he does, and I would be willing to bet that he would love to work with you on a song or 2. And he
That'd be
he
great.
has he has a page that I'm in, where he will frequently say, "Hey, I'm working on this. Can people send me a vocal of such and such a thing?" Or he'll send out a music. He'll make a vocal of this and send it to me. Or you could let him know what instruments you could add to it. He plays guitar himself. Um,
Oh, that's so cool, like a crowdsourced song almost,
uh-huh.
right? Oh,
If
that's so
if you
cool.
check out the short that I have on my channel of Jesus drowned the little children,
What? Okay,
I took
I'll
Jesus
check it out.
I took Jesus loves the little children and changed it to Jesus drown the little children. Jesus drown the little children, all the children of the world.
Oh my god. All the ch
Red and yellow, black and white, they were evil in his sight. So Jesus drowned the little children of the world.
Oh my god, that's brilliant.
And I used that on a Ken Ham video, and Art Against Ignorance did the music for me for that, and he got a group of people to all send in vocals. One of the vocals is myself, and then he mixed all of the vocals and he played the music with it.
Oh, that's so cool. The
He
floods.
also Yeah, he
Love it.
also produced, Purple's, "Give Us Back Our Winter Holiday,"
Hmm.
which is to the tune of, "God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen."
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Oh,
I
that's
like
cool.
writing lyrics, but I'm not a very good singer. I'm a good backup singer. I am not a lead singer because 'cause I'm not always on tune, and I'm not very good at keeping with the rhythm. Choir
Oh, yeah.
directors love me because I watch them like a hawk to make sure I'm on the beat.
Watch the little stick thing. Yeah, I
Yes, yes.
yeah, I was always terrible, at the lyric part. I think that's why I like the Christian punk was perfect for me because 'cause I'm just like, "Jesus, Jesus, to Jesus, Jesus, Je" like, that's all you gotta super easy. So, but yeah, I like music and melodies. That's the main thing. I can just pump out, so and then, the different multiple, like, parts that go into each other and stuff, but no words. I can't write words, and so it's a whole lot of, like, me singing nonsense to just get to get the melody out, but
Okay. Well, if you ever want someone to write lyrics, I like writing lyrics.
sweet, yeah, we should do that.
Mhm.
I
Okay.
will hit you up. Yeah, I love writing songs like that, it's so fun.
Um, so do you still do music?
A little bit. I have, like, a little, acoustic thing I'm working on right now, but, yeah, I don't, not as much, as of late, mostly, kinda, podcasting kinda takes up most of my time and mental space, I think. But,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. But I do have a little project I'm working on. It's gonna take a while, but, it's one of
Mhm.
those things. Yeah, it's like an acoustic punk type of thing?
Now, when you did finally give up your faith, did that cause any rifts with your family?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I think the riffs were sort of already there,
Mm,
and it just sort of,
mhm,
made them broader, I guess. But, yeah, no, I thought it was a good idea to try to, like, contact each member of my family and have the conversation because
mhm,
I kept finding it just super irritating at family gatherings and stuff where people would still basically expect me to say things like expect me to do the prayer, or just expect me to respond to their whatever it is. Oh, well, that's because Jesus said da 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 da, and expecting me to be like, oh yeah, because that's what Jesus did, or whatever. So I all that got so annoying. I was like, and at first I was just like, I'm just not going to say anything. I'm just going to look, and then that got really awkward really quick. You know?
mm,
So I was just,
mhm.
like, staring at him like, "Are you gonna respond?" And I'm like, "No." So so I ended up calling each one of 'em, and being like, "Hey, just so you know, I'm an atheist now, and here's why, here's the" and each one of them did, pretty much what I'd expect. They were all nice about it, but, of course, they were, like, trying to walk me through the apologetics, and then I was walking them through, like, the arguments that I heard from, the atheist experience and stuff like that.
Mhm,
And, but
mhm,
I think it was a good thing for me, but I don't know if I'd recommend that to everybody because,
mhm,
families can be kind of insane. So I I don't know, but it did work out as well for what I was doing, and that way, when we did, end up having family gatherings and stuff, people just knew. They didn't have to, like, say it didn't have to be awkward or anything. Everybody just knew that don't ask him to pray, don't ask him to respond to any religious rhetoric or whatever, with, like, the same way that we would. Don't expect that type of stuff of them. And then it made the get-togethers a lot more comfortable. You know?
mm, mhm, mhm,
I still feel bad, though. I almost feel like when I do go to those things because of all that, it's like they can't talk about 90% of the things they wanna talk about. I always feel bad about that because we pretty much just got Marvel movies now. That's it. Or we can only, we all agree that Marvel's pretty good. Those movies are fun, and that's it. That's all we can really talk about. So I always kind of feel bad. I try to give everybody their space,
mhm,
just let them do their family thing, do your religious stuff. That's fine. Like I'll be all right.
mhm, mhm,
Love you guys, but enjoy yourselves. I'm gonna enjoy myself over here doing the stuff that you disapprove of. So
mhm.
just
I recently was in a meeting. Um, it was an ISP, which is in one respect, it's a government meeting. I mean, it's the state, it's DHR that called the meeting and is heading up the meeting. But we were having it in the home of a foster parent because it was difficult for this foster parent to be able to come to the meeting. So we had the meeting at their home. And this particular foster parent, and it's not the one that I told you about before the show started, it's a different foster
oh,
parent.
okay.
Um, and he said, "Okay, well, I always like to start everything with prayer. So we're going to begin our meeting with prayer." And he says, "Everyone, please bow your heads." And I didn't, and I was kind of waiting for someone to say, "Aren't you going to bow your head?" No, I'm not. I don't have to believe in your God, and this is actually a state meeting. I don't have to. Just
Right.
because we're in your house doesn't mean I have to respect your God.
Wow, that's funny.
But
In a meeting too, or in a state meeting
yeah,
like that,
but
wow.
actually, no, if anybody noticed, nobody said anything.
uh
So
Yeah, that's nice. So they don't we're trying to have that battle right then, I guess, right?
Mhm. Okay, to everybody in the chat and everybody watching this in the future, if you are not already subscribed to Brently, Brently has actually 2, YouTube channels. He has Punk Apostate and Punk Apostate what's his
Oh, I think it's like a backup.
podcast?
That's like my Punk
Podcast.
Apostate podcast. In case something happens to the one, I got the other one ready to go. And I do
Okay.
put stuff on there that just never get, a lot of times I'll delete stuff. And so that's sort of just the stuff that normally would get deleted. But yeah, it's up there.
Okay. There are links to both of those channels in the description. Please go and subscribe to Punk Apostate and Punk Apostate podcast if you are not already subscribed. Um, and Brentley, is there anything special that you have coming up that you want people to know about?
Let's see. What do I feel like I do have something coming up. And I'm gonna be working with Ember. We're gonna be doing some historical type of stuff. So
Oh,
like
cool.
yeah, he's gonna go through the history of I think it's Vlad, the
History of
Impaler.
what?
The history of Vlad the Impaler.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that'll be cool. And we also want to do a Russian oligarchs one too, so that'll be kind of cool. Looking forward to those.
Okay. And what I have coming up next week is I know I have promised this twice and it has fallen through twice, but Sergeant Skeptic has promised me that next week he really will be here. He was supposed to be here this week. He was supposed to be here 2 weeks ago, and, something has come up both times that he's had to cancel, but he promised me that he will be here next week. So this is the 3rd time I am promising you Sergeant Skeptic for next week.
Hey, it happens,
Mhm,
Schedules are tough,
mhm, mhm.
Oh, it's awesome.
Okay, so with that, everyone, thank you so much to everyone in the chat for your comments and questions. Thank you so much, Brently. It has been a pleasure to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much. This is awesome. Thanks for having me.
Mhm. Live your life.